Welcome to another FasTrax webinar. Today we are going to be covering warehouse ordering. Once we log into Warehouse, we will go to the inventory module. From the Orders tab, we can enter orders for our customers that we are selling items to. To begin, we will go down to New. And in this pop-up, we will select the account that we are selling it to. If the customer has a PO number, we can enter it in here. The order date will default to today's date, but if that needs to be changed, we can change it from this section right here. We have the options to check for pre-book orders and also to default this to be a damage return if we're doing a return for the customer. In this scenario, though, we're going to be placing an order for the customer. So we will just go to continue. From here, we can go down to the bottom left and click on the Add button. This will bring up the window to where we can now type in our item numbers to add to the order. We can just press the Enter key on our keyboard. This populates the box with the item that we're going to place on the order. We enter our order quantity. Then we can hit the Enter button. If we need to change the price, we can do so here. And once we hit Enter again, as you see, it's now on the order. If we do not know the item number of the item, we can go to the Find hyperlink next to the item number box. From here, we can search by UPC number, item description, UPC number contains, or by the vendor part number. In this case, we're going to search by description. We can just type in part of the description of the item and hit Enter, and this will bring up items that have that description. We can select the one that we want to use, and then enter our order quantity and add it to the item, to the order. As we can see up here in the top left, we have our order number. So if we was to close out of this order, we can always go back into it by going to the order number here and reopening it. Once you're done adding items to the order, the next step would be to pick the order to have it ready to be invoiced and shipped out. To pick the order, we can just go down to Pick Order. And from the Pick Order screen, there is two ways we can do this. The first way is under Invoice Quantity. We can click in the box and actually put how many that we have picked and are going to ship out to the customer. The other option is if we go down to the bottom, we can click on the button that says Fill. And this then asks us, do we want to fill the selected order or set invoice quantity to order quantity? We tell it yes. It just puts the invoice quantity as ever how many were ordered. Once the order is picked, it is ready to be invoiced. We can actually do it from the bottom here under close/invoice. This will close out the order and remove the items from inventory. So when it pops up and asks us if we want to close the order and update the inventory quantity, we tell it yes. And it tells us that order has been invoiced and closed. As you can see, that order number is no longer on this screen. If we go to the next tab under invoiced orders, our order that we just closed is now here. The next thing that we're going to cover is going to be purchasing. Still under the inventory module, we'll go over one tab to purchasing. This is where you are going to be ordering from your supplier to bring items into your warehouse, then sell to your customer. To create a new purchase order, we would go down to the bottom and click on New. We can select our vendor. If we need a reference number, we can put that in, or it would automatically be filled by today's date. And for order method, we have several different options. We have a blank order we can create where we can just enter the whatever items in that we want to order. We can order by days of inventory. We can list all items from the vendor. We can do a replenishment by the items that have been sold. We can also do days of inventory that are left. First, we're going to do days of inventory. We put our start and stop date from what we want to look at for our inventory time, and put how many days of inventory we'd like to keep. In this scenario, we're going to keep 14 days of inventory. We have the option here to do not take inventory into account open purchases. What this does is it tells the warehouse system not to look at any open purchases that we currently have for these items. So it will just look at our start and stop date and order from that. If this is not checked, then if an item that is already on an open purchase would not be put onto this order, because the system sees that it's on order and we're waiting for that to come in. Once we have our settings entered, we can tell it to generate the order. So as we can see, this comes up with one item to be ordered. If I needed to add more items, I could go into the part number here, and I could type in my part number. And I can put how many I need and add that to the order as well. When we go to close this order out, it asks us if we want to save the pending purchase order. We are going to tell it yes. So it now shows up in our list of open purchase orders. Now we're going to change it from days of inventory. We're going to do it by replenish items sold. In this scenario, we'll use the same vendor. and we will generate this order. This looks at that date range and sees what has been sold during that date range, and it just reorders those items. Once you actually receive the order and it comes into your warehouse and you're ready to receive it in, we can click on the order, and we are going to go down to the bottom to the Receive button. So on the Receive a Purchase screen, we will want to enter our invoice number. I'm just going to use today's date. And just like in the order screen, we can put how many we received under the received quantity. Or we can go to the bottom and hit Set Received Quantity to Order Quantity. On receiving, we have two different options of shipping. The top option of shipping is just going to add a shipping cost to the order. So if my shipping was $10, it's just going to add that at the bottom of the order. However, if I'm going to calculate that in my cost of the item, I use the bottom box, shipping for calculation. So if I put this as $10 for shipping, and I tell it to recalculate my cost, it will take that $10 and distribute it between the items on this order. It'll ask you if you want to update the cost to include shipping amount. You tell it yes, and it recalculates your cost. Also, if you have taxes on your purchases, there's a hyperlink to calculate your taxes. Once you click on the button, as you can see, I now have tax calculated on my order. Once I have received all of my items, to close the invoice, I will go to Save and Apply. It will ask me, do you wish to check for terms or discount? This is if the manufacturer is giving you discounts based on when you're paying your bill to them. You can tell it yes that you want to check. And then it asks you if you want to save and apply the received quantity to the inventory. We're going to tell it yes. So those two items have now been updated in my inventory. Another option we have under purchasing is when we go to create a new order, we also have the option to schedule the order. We would do this the same way. We would set our order method and our start and stop date range. Basically, this is telling you how many weeks you're going to look at. But instead of hitting generate, we would hit schedule. We would give it a name. And we'd set how we'd like for it to run. It's going to be weekly or monthly. We will set what day we're going to run it on. We will run this one on Fridays. And we set what time we want the order to run. We select our vendor. And our order method is replenishment items sold. We can do a date offset of what it's looking for here. We're going to look at, we'll do 14 days with a duration of 14 days as well. And then we'll save this. Now this has been added to scheduled purchases. We go to the tab that says scheduled purchase. The top one here is the one that we just created. Tells us that it's set to run weekly on Fridays at 7 a.m. and it's by replenishment sold. If we were to happen to miss something on our receiving of an order, we could actually go in and do an adjustment for that order. We would tell it new. And in the notes, you would want to say that it's from which order it was that you're doing a correction for. And then we would put in what item we'd like to adjust. And then either a positive or a negative number for the amount. So I'm going to say that we received one too many of this. So I will put in a -1. Now I'll tell that to add. Then I will apply that adjustment. And that way it will adjust that back out of my inventory. Alright, that concludes today's webinar. As always, if you have any questions, the webinar will be available to view on our website along with all past webinars that have been recorded. I hope you learned something today, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you.